Yes, a patent. Is this new? It is new. I'm sure Cool Cat might know about this because Cool Cat is pretty much up to date on a lot of this stuff. So, like you see, sorry about zooming in and out. United States patent right, for example, you have this thing of systems and methods for mining on a proof of work blockchain network. Applicant is Nchain. I'm just double checking that you guys can see that. Yeah, you can. Yeah, applicants Nchain. Who are the inventors? Craig Stephen Wright, John Fletcher, some of these other guys you might be more familiar with. Who's the assignee? Nchain. Okay. As we get to the right side, how recent? Well, boom, guys, look at that. May 7th, 2024. This is giant scam, right? Well, not exactly. Okay. Let's take you to another thing. We do reference Justia patents, do we not? Yes, we do, especially when it comes to all the patents that we share with or JASMY, right? But this isn't JASMY, right? This is Bitcoin. And let's also get into this. So you will see some references here. And look what it says, right? This references what happened back in 2020. So this is all like an update. But interesting back in 2020 of systems and methods for mining on a proof of work blockchain network. And how it literally laid down, I guess you could say, some really important things, especially from these cross references, the technical field aspect, gives you background about it all. But it's all verifiable. They have a summary here that I decided to get more into. But most importantly, the reason why I wanted to bring it to you guys is because when you go to this here, you see from this guy named Learn BSV, shout out to him. You go further down, he gives you the link to that Justia patents. But look who decided to chime in. Yes, that's right. BSV blockchain decided to chime in. Now, why? Well, because they mentioned that the BSV Association was very well pleased to announce the launch of the new network access rules called NAR for the BSV blockchain. Dive into the details. Well, you guys know me. I do these deep dives, right? So, is this just something to talk about just for the hell of it? No. I do feel as though it's a big deal because, for one, it's recent news in regards to Bitcoin. So, let's get to this. Let's just simply share this. Look at this, guys. I know I'm on the screen. It doesn't matter. Back in February, you have this reference. And boy, was it ever a reference. It talks about how Bitcoin BSV Association launches new network access rules. And talks a little bit more about this whole thing of NAR. And why is this worth pointing out to you guys? Well, it mentions how they made a set of rules for regulating the relationship between the BSV Association, of course, the nodes on the BSV network. Most importantly, is this they are based on what the original Bitcoin protocol, guys, rules and those set out in the Bitcoin white paper. So, my thing is this you know where we're going with this. Cool Cat's right. Shout out to Brother Cool Cat. Why is that? Because we should all pay more attention to the tech compared to, oh, I already got the summary judgment. I already saw what I needed to see, and I'm good. If you see examples continuously of other companies, one in particular here in a bit, that is literally giving us updates about what they see in all this, taking it to the next level, do you think they give two about Craig Wright? No, not really. They care more about the tech. That's where it's always been with me, to be honest. You know, and yeah, years ago, I was kind of on the fence of covering this. But Cool Cat, when it showed up about it, and then as I researched it more, I was like, well, you know what? God bless him. Because you want to know something? It's the tech. So there's value in that tech, at least in my book. Check this out for a second. We're going to get more into this. This is zoom in. You will see how it talks about this, even back to the reference of the white paper. Yeah, referencing the white paper. Why? Because in the Bitcoin white paper, like it says, it offered the opportunity to obtain up to 20,999,950 electronic coins in the aggregate if they abide by certain rules, including but not limited to the Bitcoin protocol rules and those set out in the Bitcoin white paper. This offer is known as unilateral contract, guys, and it adheres to the protocol. Yeah. Another thing that was worth pointing out talks about collecting, validating, accepting a block, collecting transactions into a block, attempting to find proof of work for a block, or broadcasting a block. Sounds like utility motion to me. Talks about how to achieve this. You have common framework with clear standards, practices for nodes, and how it's essential. So there's an update, right? And you saw that basically in what? In this reference. Interesting. This patent. So is this just all nothing burger? Apparently not. Definitely not. Because even in this, it talks about, for example, it's hard to see it, I know, but being able to select a committee of trusted independent computing nodes, how each node is trusted in the committee, and how it generates a parallelizable, I can't even pronounce that right now. It's hard to read. Multi-party computational challenge, and how it all basically references miners, proof of work. Again, proof of work. There's value in proof of work. We know that, especially with what's going on with Caspa. Mine Caspa. I'm glad I do. All right. I want to share this with you as well. Let's jump back to this. Gives you the role of the BSV Association. But what I really, really like here is where I saw this explanation, if you will, when it comes to what it says here about the full copy of the rules and explanation, basically, of the different terminology. Okay? Before we get into that, I want to give you just a little quick thing about this because we talked about NAR. Okay, so NAR is the network access rules for the BSV blockchain. Hear me out. Some of this stuff I understand goes kind of above people's heads and so on, and that's okay, especially if you're new. But guys, NAR, NAR, no, not the Chronicles of Narnia, but the Chronicles of Bitcoin, right? That was a weird joke. It formalizes expectations for BSV network participants. This is where a lot of people feel as though that you don't need anything about BSV. And, nothing against Satoshi. Some of you guys saw maybe the little back and forth on X. It's okay. I respect his opinion and so on. I understand he's just gung-ho on BSV only. And some of you guys, the hardcore guys, maybe be that same way too. And you don't like me talking about other things, right? I'm an investor. I'm going to be into all sorts of things, whether people agree with that or not. I just want to throw that out there. But we are talking about BSV and talking about the thing about NAR, and most importantly, network participants. Who are some of the network participants? Well, you know who some of those ones are, but most importantly, the whole thing of NAR outlines a set of rules based on the original Bitcoin white paper, the protocol, right? It provides clarity, common ground for what is considered, quote, honest and lawful behavior, right? And the laws that were referenced, when I get more into this, take you back to, for example, England, right? Hence why you saw the trial basically being, hosted there and so on. So, honest and lawful behavior on the BSV network. What about the whole thing of a legal recourse? What does that enable? Well, the framework in itself allows legal action, basically speaking, to be taken against what, guys? Nodes. And most importantly, when it comes to the nodes that breach the rules. This could potentially deter malicious activity and promote a more stable network environment. Boom. That's not a mic drop moment, but that's a big deal because guess what? For stupid people like Elizabeth Warren, I'm not going to be apologetic on that. Stupid people like Elizabeth Warren who wants to point out, well, why would you want to use this, technology? It basically was, look at the past. You had Silk Road and you had all this illicit activity and all this, drug trafficking and so on. Okay. Hello, look at cash money. Yeah. And then look how we're trying to get away from that. And last I checked, there was more that was done in fiat than Bitcoin could even come close to, right? But what about the whole idea that this specifically is going to, with these patents that are put in place on this update on May 7th from Dr. Craig Wright and Nchain, to deter malicious activity and promote a more stable network because you have the rules? Oh, they're not building anymore. They're not doing anymore. He's just a charlatan. Give me a break. This increases legal certainty and confidence. And I like seeing this in light of all the nonsense that's been happening lately with all the bickering back and forth, like, oh, I don't want to get involved with this because of charlatan. Hey, I want to be involved because the freaking tech says there's nothing that comes close to this tech. Nothing, right? We know that Terranode, last report, 9 million TPS. But most important, increasing legal certainty and confidence. We need more confidence because guess what? Yeah, we recognize that some bad news happened. But by having a published rule set, the BSV Association aims to give users and nodes, more importantly, confidence in what, guys? The network, the stability, the future, moving forward. It could attract more businesses and applications considering using BSV. That's the point. Because want to know something? When you get even more into it, you understand that the BSV Association, their claims to NAR aligns with the vision that's laid out in the original Bitcoin white paper. It could be seen as a positive for those who believe BSV stays true to Satoshi Nakamoto's original vision of Bitcoin, baby. That's what I'm talking about. What does it mean for BSV moving forward? That might be worth pointing out. Well, you got to keep in mind, it could potentially lead to a more stable and secure BSV network. And at the end of the day, to do what? Kind of like back to our coverage at the very beginning of the show. Attract new users, fostering just that, guys, the growth. However, some may criticize it all. Oh, they're introducing formalized rules. This doesn't sound decentralized to me. This sounds centralized. Okay, I'm going to take you now over to what caught my eye instead of just being a content creator that just does the typical fluff and, oh, I'm sharing an article, blah, 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 right? Look at this for a second. This is worth pointing out because you want to know something? You know, I always say the research trumps FUD 110%. It does this time, especially this time. Look at this, especially if you hold BSV. And even if you're a naysayer, it's just like BSV scam, right? This is real, true Bitcoin. We got to stop calling it BSV, right? Look at this. This is really cool. Enforcement rules. This caught my eye. This is from nar.bsvblockchain.org/network. I'm going to drop it into the comments for you guys on the live that are nerding it out with me right now. So what you'll see here is basically this. Go to this link, verify it for yourself. Let's get into the nitty gritty. All right. So I didn't want to get into about 2 or 3 hours of this. You guys are more than welcome to. Maybe Cool Cat will, because Cool Cat does what he does. But guys, it's this part about part 3, enforcement rules. Okay. And why that's so important. So look what it says. The association may in its absolute discretion issue a direction to a node required to take a step or a few steps, a directive where there is enforcement, direction, decision event, or indirect decision event. In the rules, the term directive event refers to any of the events in this clause. These directives, or events I should say, are defined below. And look with this. It's the obligations. It says here that each node will promptly comply with the requirements of any directive applicable to it following receipt of notice of the directive, and in any event no later than the time of compliance, which is specified. So it has things already written to be abiding of the laws and so on. See what you want. This is why Gary Gensler can never really truly go after Bitcoin. But what about the real, true, original Bitcoin, right? That's the way I look at it. So I got to this last part about the restrictions and the directives. It states here that the association may not issue a directive where there has been no directive event. The directive may only require nodes to do any of the following steps, and that is freeze specified coins in unspent transaction outputs, blacklist or whitelist specific IP addresses or peer connections in the node software, reassign frozen coins, or even invalidate specified blocks. They're not trying to pull a rug pull or create nonsense that you see, for example, in a smart contract. What's the purpose? Well, it's to be, or I should say, ensure compliance with rules. Or how about this? Laws. Look at this. There's an indirect decision, for example, to give effect or to enforce the indirect decision in regards to ownership, possession, transfer, content, or even control of BSV. So I can appreciate that. And to give you a little bit more about this, because I know it sounds a little Greek a little bit, right? What I gathered was in regards to the enforcement rules, just to elaborate a little bit more, to instill confidence, okay? Let me see where I'm at on the screen. It's what it means for BSV moving forward and so on. So for one, guys, I want you to understand that this will formalize the expectations for BSV Network and, of course, their participants. NAR outlines a set of rules, of course, based on the original Bitcoin protocol, like I pointed out, and it does provide clarity on quote-unquote honest and lawful behavior on BSV. Enables legal recourse, talked about that earlier. But what about increasing legal certainty and, of course, most importantly, confidence? You guys got to keep in mind, by having a published rule set, right, the BSV Association aims to give users and nodes more confidence in the network stability and, of course, the future. Does this fall in line with the original protocol and, of course, BSV's vision? Hence why it's even called Satoshi vision moving forward. Yes, BSV Association does claim that NAR aligns with the vision laid out, in, of course, in that original protocol. But most importantly, could aim to set a positive structure moving forward for BSV because it stays true to Satoshi Nakamoto's original vision. Last but not least, moving forward, you also got to keep in mind that the enforcement in itself basically means more of that compliance, more of that stability, but also being able to have legal integration. Now, I do want to point this out. So, when we talk about LCX, a lot of people feels like, hey, great that, the Liechtenstein exchange is obviously in Liechtenstein. But this in itself creates a sense of legal integration. The rules consider legal decisions from England, Wales, and even Switzerland. Listen to this. And it ties the BSV network to a specific legal framework. We're always talking about legal frameworks, compliance, and so on. But it can be seen as a positive for those seeking clear legal boundaries. Like who? Maybe the SEC? Just throwing that out there. But it may be viewed negatively for those who prefer a completely self-governing blockchain. I think there has to be balances, right? And we're going to see more of that in regards to specifically regulations. What about the whole thing of transparency requirements? Back to the whole thing of nodes real quick, and we'll get into the next part, right? Nodes are obligated to inform the association about potential rule violations and provide relevant information when requested. You better believe it's going to promote transparency, of course, within the network. Now, we understand there's going to be a long-term impact of these rules, and BSV will basically be dependent on how they are implemented and enforced in practice. But I think it's a move in the right direction.